Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean, and today we got to talk about Vice President Kamala Harris, current presidential candidate Kamala Harris, stealth editing news headlines in order to make them more favorable, as well as the blurbs underneath the headlines in Google search results by paying Google to do this, and how a campaign that supposedly is calling out the evil orange man in tandem with these outlets for spreading fake news is quite literally spending your campaign funds, if you donated to her, to do that very same thing. Now, we're going to get into this, but before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay.
And let's have a look at Kamala Harris's campaign team, because they've been caught out secretly editing news headlines in Google search to paint her in a more favorable light. This is quite an explosive story in the US. Michael, what do you think about this? I mean, this is literally fake news. They accused Donald Trump of fake news, but this actually is fake news.
So to me, it's very interesting that the closest to the top results I could find on YouTube.com for videos covering this story, which has received a widespread coverage, is of course from Sky News Australia. For whatever reason, before I get to that, I see a bunch of different stories about how the evil orange man is spreading fake news, and since Google owns YouTube, I find that to be incredibly interesting that even when I'm searching for something specifically about what Harris did wrong, I get all this evil orange man did a bad thing in those results. But let's set that aside and talk about the issue at hand, which is Kamala Harris using campaign funds in order to make fake headlines that look like real news articles to make the news media seem like they're more in support of her. And the key word there is more in support of her, because they are obviously in the tank for the Harris campaign. This woman hasn't released any policies, yet she's getting glowing coverage. She staged a coup against Joe Biden. Apparently, they threatened to invoke the 25th Amendment against him unless he stepped down as the candidate. And yet, the media is just praising this never got any votes in the Democratic primary candidate for taking over at this stage in the game. But that's whatever, that's what's to be expected. But to see all of that, to see the free passes that Harris is getting and think that that is not enough, the media is not worshiping her enough, they're not giving her a coronation enough, and then to do this is absolutely hilarious, and a bunch of these outlets are angry because, again, they've been bending over backwards to praise Harris.
Well, Harris's campaign team, I've got to say, have done an outstanding job so far. Anyone who's watched this station over the last 3 years, and anyone who's watched Fox in America, knows that Harris is completely unqualified to be president of the United States. But, here's the thing. No one knew in America, apart from Fox viewers and Sky viewers, no one knew until a month ago that Biden had dementia. Most people in America have no idea that she has not given an interview yet.
So Sky News shows us a bunch of examples of what looks like articles, and you can see on the top it says sponsored above it, but it is quite easy to miss when you're searching Google that these are in fact sponsored things. Now, of course, the Sky News guy points out that she's completely unqualified for the office, that Biden had dementia, and no one was really talking about this except for people online because the mainstream media was covering it up, just like they're covering up for Kamala Harris. But there's actually an Axios article that I want to pivot to so you can hear more about what she's doing and why it's so sinister. And in terms of fairness, I do want to point out that the evil orange man's campaign did similar things, specifically on Facebook, and there's a reason why that was actually a banned practice on Facebook starting in 2017 because of the Orange Man's campaign. So according to Axios, the Harris campaign has been editing news headlines and descriptions within Google search ads, and that makes it appear as if The Guardian, Reuters, CBS News, and other major publishers are on her side, according to what Axios has found. Now, to be clear, all of these news agencies are on the side of Kamala Harris. They are running cover for her, but this is an even more egregious step beyond this because she doesn't like the way that they're fawning over her enough, so she decided to alter headlines in order to make it seem like they're in love with her even more than they actually are, if that's even possible. Now, Axios has this section entitled Why It Matters, and it reads as follows. It's a common practice in the commercial advertising world that does not violate Google's policies, but the ads mimic real news results from search closely enough that they have news outlets caught off guard. According to Google's ad transparency Center, the Trump campaign is not running these ads, but the technique was used by his campaigns before. The ads say that they are sponsored, but it's not immediately clear that the text that accompanies the real news links is written by campaigns and not by the media publication itself. So right here, Google, who is known for enforcing so-called borderline bans against people like President Trump and people on the right, are saying that this is technically not violative of their policies, so there's nothing to be concerned about. They also made sure to make clear that the Trump campaign is not currently using this, but in the purpose of fairness, the Trump campaign has used this in the past. And in fact, one of the platforms that the Trump campaign used this for in his 2016 campaign was actually Facebook, which of course responded in the way that you would expect when the Trump campaign is doing something, by banning this type of advertising. So Facebook, which typically has a worse reputation than almost any other social media company for misinformation and its advertising policies, actually banned this in 2017, yet Google is allowing Harris to do this. Now, they have a source familiar with the Harris campaign's ads team, and they say the campaign buys search ads with news links to give voters searching for information about the vice president more context. Now, it also says the campaign has complied with all of Google's rules, and although a technical glitch in Google's ad library made it appear as if some of the ads lack the necessary disclosures Google requires when they run, a Google spokesman confirmed that it was just a glitch. We don't need to worry about it. I mean, we have rules, and don't worry, it says sponsored, except for times that it doesn't say sponsored and it looks legit 100% like news articles, but that's nothing for you to be concerned about in terms of allowing her to spread fake news. Now, for me, this is one of the funniest things that Axios ended up including in here. The campaign is not trying to give you more context. They're not trying to inform your opinion in any kind of objective way. If they were doing that, then the campaign staffer that actually is acting in that way should be fired on the spot. The whole point of the campaign and everything they do is to aid their candidate in winning. That is what is going on right here. That is what Kamala Harris's team is doing. And by the way, this is also something that seems rather unnecessary when we're talking about Google specifically, because people have noted that trying to search information about the Trump campaign ends up leading you to propaganda pieces that are not sponsored content about the Kamala Harris campaign. In fact, trying to search up Trump's assassination does not autocomplete, despite the fact that this is clearly and obviously a popular searchable term. And the reason I believe Google is engaging in these shenanigans is because Google doesn't want people who are unaware that somebody tried to kill the president and he stood up after being shot in a very epic way to know that if they don't already know that. The only people who are allowed to search that are people who already know that it occurred because they believe that that helps Trump too much. Now, according to Axios, since August 3rd, nearly a dozen news companies have been used in these type of search ads from the Harris campaign. This includes The Independent, which is a UK outlet, NPR, The AP, The Guardian, USA Today, PBS, CNN, CBS News, and Time, and others including local outlets like North Dakota radio station WDAY Radio. Now, I don't know about the local outlet for sure, but each and every one of these companies is definitely in the tank for Kamala Harris. They overwhelmingly support her, and a perfect example of this is the glowing Time magazine cover that was just released about Kamala Harris. Another example of this is that a bunch of these outlets are now lying, running cover for Harris, saying things that are completely untrue, like she was never the border czar, like she never took positions that she definitely took, and again, not complaining, not pointing out that she hasn't taken an interview in weeks, and that she hasn't released any policies, because why would we expect the VP candidate, who currently is the candidate for president for this year, to have any policy platform if they're a Democrat? And just to give you an example of what they're doing, there's an article from The Guardian with a headline that says, VP Harris fights abortion bans, and then it says, Harris defends reproductive freedom. and then includes supporting text underneath that says, quote, VP Harris is a champion of reproductive freedom and will stop Trump's abortion bans. An NPR headline reads as follows, which is, Harris will lower healthcare costs, with supporting text that says, quote, Kamala Harris will lower the costs of high-quality, affordable healthcare. Now, I do want to laugh at the fact that these people are paying money to make these fake articles with these fake headlines and fake subheadlines, and yet you still have Kamala Harris saying that she will fight to lower the cost of high-quality, already affordable healthcare, which seems like a rather odd thing for her to say, but her campaign is full of a bunch of idiots, so this is not surprising. But there are just example after example of her just making glowing campaign headlines that look like real news articles in order to deceive the average everyday voter. Now, another thing that makes me laugh from this Axios report is that a bunch of these mainstream outlets don't like the accusations of bias, so for them, being displayed on Google as supporting one of the candidates has really aggravated them. Now, it's absolutely hilarious because they are 100% biased, that they do definitely support Kamala Harris, but she's making it so obvious that they feel like she's hurting their credibility, and because she's not doing any interviews from them and not even using real articles, just making these fake ones, they feel like they're being cut out of the process, and that's why they're upset about this, because people like Kamala Harris, you can never praise them enough. They're ultra-authoritarian to their core, and this is why we unsurprisingly hear from former Kamala staffers that she is essentially a monster behind the scenes. Now look, overall, as of right now, this is considered a perfectly legitimate tactic on Google according to their policies, and even though Facebook banned this because Trump was doing it very prominently over there, the fact of the matter is a plain reading of those policies shows us that this is acceptable according to Google. Now, of course, if we actually see the Trump campaign engaging in these type of shenanigans in any kind of similar way, we will very likely see edits to those policies, better disclosures, and all of that. But up until that point, Google, which is definitely also in the tank for the Harris campaign, is just going to allow this to go unchallenged. But I want to know what you guys think. Should Google make this clear? Should they ban this practice like Facebook? Or should they just keep it where it is and the Trump campaign needs to get on board this type of advertising? All your thoughts down in the comments below, and as usual, if you like the video, show by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about Kamala Harris campaign shenanigans. Till next time.